Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Hey, Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have another community replay. This one is actually the Montana damage record from none other than Mr. Cranky himself. Cranky and I have known each other for a long time. He's a very good player, very smart player, very tactical player. If you guys want to link to his channel, I will throw it up on screen here, or the screenshot of his channel, and then link it down below. But today we have the Montana damage record. Yes, the worst battleship. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but I want to talk about strategy in this one. And Cranky put this video up himself, and he does a fantastic job. He's a very smart player. So if you guys want to check out his rendition of this video, go ahead. But in the meantime, I'm going to do mine. Anyway, Cranky started out here developing excellent position with island cover while his team goes and spots for him. He is with Doc and Heavy, two names you guys probably recognize, as I have played with all three of these gentlemen. When these guys are in a division, I would hardly, that's probably a 95% win rate. But actually, this game comes down to the wire. This is a great game, as most damage records are. But if you, like we mentioned, if you notice right off the rip here, Cranky is developing this position, which is an excellent early game position. His team is spotting for him as well. If you're in a destroyer, you absolutely have to spot for your team. Now, I think Doc and Heavy will both agree that this game does not go according to plan, as Doc takes the unfortunate Shima Torp there. We all love a good Shimakaze player, don't we? But in the meantime, Cranky actually gets a beautiful broadside salvo on the Montana for 40k with two Citadels, activating his epic or legendary mod, whatever it is there, to give him an increase in dispersion. And that will come in handy throughout this game. But if you notice Cranky's position here, he has access to multiple broadsides without really showing his broadside to a lot of ships. And that, as we know, is Battleship Play 101, developing broadsides while protecting your own broadside. And speaking of broadsides, we have this Yoshino here at 17 kilometers who's focused on a Mino or something closer there, as Cranky hits him for 46,000 damage with another two Citadels. If I'm being honest, that dispersion looked amazing. It should have been a dev strike, but we know that RNG is RNG. And you can't control that. It's not a skill thing. It's not a wargaming secret code thing. It's just RNG. But that does put him at level 2 for that dispersion. So he's going to be should be shooting laser beams for most of this game. Now, if you notice Cranky's position here, he's a little bit near the back line, but until you realize that you are the most valuable ship to your team, a lot of people think that being overly aggressive is just the man's way to play. And it's not. Now, in certain situations, you absolutely have to be aggressive, but YOLOing your ship in, getting 50,000 damage, and then putting your team down multiple ships early game is never the correct play. Now, aggression does pay off in certain situations, but if you'll see, Cranky's team here is epically throwing, so he needs to use and save as much health as he can. As he has helped take down two ships already, his team has matched it and put themselves down 3. Now he is repositioning here, and once you realize that the Shimakaze is unaccounted for in the middle, you will realize, okay, I can't really push up the middle here, and that is what Cranky is doing. He is assessing the situation and seeing what his team needs. And guys, that's kind of what separates a lot of players from Unicum players from the rest, is their ability to read the map and read game flow, which is what I preach to you guys constantly. There's no secret to aim or anything like that. A lot of that is irrelevant. Once you get your accuracy around 42%, a lot of the players are not more accurate. The top players are not more accurate. They're just, a little bit smarter and pay a little bit more attention. Now, we know that this is a video game. Being Super Unicom and Legends is like, it's like a participation trophy in Little League Baseball, essentially. But paying attention to the mini map is how you improve yourself as a player. So Cranky sees that his team is a little weak on the right side. He noticed that Shima is spotted. Heavy does a fantastic job of getting a nice lick on him, and Cranky rather, is waiting for a good shot. I think he aims a touch too low here. We'll never know because the Shima gets heavy, unfortunately, and none of those shells connect. You'll see that it looks like the Alaska or another ship hit him a little bit further on. He must have either stopped or continued a hard turn there. Aiming the Montana at like 15 kilometers against a destroyer is not an easy task. But as we have preached before, you should always shoot at destroyers. Even one overpen with AP from a Montana is worth like 1,500, 1,200 on a DD. So, and that is sometimes enough. The Shima has the lowest health at legendary tier, so any shots you get on it are valuable. In the meantime, though, This is a terrible spot for Cranky's team. If you notice, they are down to 4 ships, they have no destroyer, and they are up against 7 enemy ships. Now, Cranky does a fantastic job of not panicking here. If it was me, I would have been like, well, this is a loss, and probably just sailed in and got the most amount of damage I could. Their team, it seemed like, wanted nothing to do with winning other than for Cranky, his division, and actually this Alaska. Now, this Alaska, if you notice, is pretty full health. And I will say, I'm not sure what the Alaska does at the end, but he does the smart thing here to help Cranky against this Shima. Now, for some reason, I don't know why the Shima doesn't torp Cranky or move to the middle of the map, but if you'll notice in just a second here, the Shima actually pops up to the right, and Cranky is just waiting for him. Now, me personally, I would have switched to HE, but Cranky, I'm guessing Cranky didn't know what was going to pop up, and AP still does a massive amount of damage to Destroyer. So, don't, if you have AP loaded, don't switch if you're in the middle of a shot or a DD pops up, and I think that's what Cranky is waiting for. But he's turning his turrets here. He's actually using his plane as a defense mechanism. If you did not know, the plane will sometimes spot torps ahead of time. And also, the Montana has 6 spotter planes, so Cranky does not need all of those. I think even if you start the game and start your plane from the very moment you can, I still don't think you can get through all of them. But anyway, Cranky's telling this Alaska to radar, and he says he understands. So we're just waiting for that Alaska to either radar or spot the Shima, because at this point, there's no other play in this game. Now, like we said, for some reason, the Shima just sits at this island here. This next series of events is very bizarre to me, because the Shima he knows he's spotted. He knows he got shot at. Cranky shot one turret, and some of you may be wondering why, but I'll explain that after this. Why on earth would you continue around that corner? I'm sure Cranky in his mind was just wondering what he is witnessing. Number one, the Shima was spotted, decides not to move when there is a radar cruiser rounding the corner and a battleship within 11 kilometers. And the reason we mentioned that Cranky shot one turret as he shoots another shot at this Colbert here, which I think is a touch low, but that's just me. Cranky has excellent aim, as you see with the damage total here, but that shot misses the Colbert there. The reason Cranky shot one salvo is because some, excellent or good, Unicum destroyer players will dodge a full salvo. A lot of players like to full salvo, thinking I don't know what they think, but when he shoots that one shot, he was prompting the destroyer to accelerate, but the destroyer didn't accelerate. He just sat there, and he killed him as a result. So a good, smart tactic and play by Cranky here as he moves behind this island to mitigate the fire damage from this Colbert, while also trying to develop a broadside on the enemy Montana here, as he's probably going to the party to tell Doc and Heavy that they're bad. But thanks to the efforts of Cranky and that Alaska, his team now has a chance. If you notice, though, this Colbert is pushing in, and as we've mentioned before, one of the most broken ships in the game. In terms of like theory, 32 millimeters of plating with an insane rate of fire and reload there. So he shoots at him, though, gets 1 pen and 1 bounce. And any Colbert player that knows what they're doing knows that they can just kind of abuse players. I don't really say this too often about ships, but that is just one of the brainless, no skill ships in this game. Kiting around, dodging with an obnoxious rudder and stuff. Now it does serve purpose, but I don't like that. I think you should either sacrifice like the Des Moines does, where you have 27 millimeter armor, and honestly the Worcester too. The Worcester with their 32 millimeter plating is just one of those ships where it's like, what was Wargaming thinking? But regardless of that, Cranky is trying to take shots at it, and the Colbert turns again, gets 1 pen on that target. And now is when Cranky is utilizing his health that he has saved for the whole game. Now, because this is the worst playlist in World of Warships Legends Capture the Base, Cranky knows that he's going to have to either get 2 kills or get into the enemy base to help stop the influx of points. Here's a dangerous shot that, just thanks to the Montana's armor, I guess, really, and RNG, Cranky is saved from that broadside. He also is running Fight Fire with fire, but as he gets another 2 overpens, I'm guessing from that turning Colbert there. But if you notice, he only has 138,000 damage at this point. But again, a lot of these damage records come down to, well, number one, bad teams. Your team not being the best and the enemy team being even worse. But also to smart positioning, very smart positioning. You cannot get a damage record by just YOLOing around without any thought in the world. A lot of people think damage is the best indicator of skill, and it's not even close. Positioning your ship to win the game and going for the win are much more important. As Cranky gets the Confederate here, shooting a broadside Montana with his Montana. But if you notice, he's slightly angled to both this Marco and the Montana. He's more so utilizing island cover against the Marco while this Montana sits broadside. Not sure why players do this. No idea. But the Montana, while it is not my favorite in any regard, it can absolutely smack as he gets another two Citadels and the high caliber there as his Ruprecht goes down. But if you notice, Cranky is now utilizing his damage cons, his heals, and everything. I know the Montana is not a bad ship. I joke about it often, but it is just a very slow, non-maneuverable ship for me. I much prefer the Burgoyne, the Conqueror, really. Um, we all love our American battleships, but even in the stats, the Montana is one of the worst performing. It is slow, non-maneuverable, and 406s, while they absolutely abuse broadside ships, do not do that much in terms of any additional overmatch besides the Des Moines. And then, of course, the Buffalo at Tier 8, but I never really compared Tier 8 ships. If you can get position as Cranky has gotten, the Montana, however, can be an absolute bruiser of a ship. So that's just my thoughts and opinions on the matter. It's backed up by stats, but players like Cranky, and Spartan, of course, will tell you guys that the Montana is the best one ever. It's just one of those ships, like, I guess I have a love-hate relationship with. It's not bad in any regard, but I'm like Flambass, and it's just not my favorite ship. So I legally am obliged to say that the Montana is bad in every social setting. But this game proves that with some intelligence, the Montana can absolutely be amazing as players sail broadside in front of you. Not sure what this Marco was thinking. Maybe I'm going to use my smoke to sail broadside tactic, I guess. But Cranky does a fantastic job of putting himself in position, getting that Marco's broadside, and getting a free 60,000 damage there. I have no idea what half of the players in this game were thinking, but guys, that is how a lot of these damage records go. You just have to be a smarter player in an environment where players do not want to be smart. The Alaska on his team, the Shima on the enemy team, the Marco on this team, the Montana on the enemy team, all of them just sat broadside. And I think that's where the Montana excels, getting players to sit broadside. But, again, we talked about it, positioning yourself, etc., doing things that you need to do in order to win. Now, this is the part where the skill of Cranky and just being a smarter player lends him, tremendously. He gets a little bit lucky that the enemy Marco got that Marco. I'm not sure why that he had HE, but anyway, he did and got that Marco off the board, which is huge for Cranky and his team. His team, if you'll notice, is only down a few points, and if he can kill this curve first, he will actually be up barely on points. Now, he gets a little bit lucky in terms of this GK going behind the island, but I think that's the only reason he moved out from behind this island. In the meantime, though, he did throw a shot over, and he has, at this time, 305,000 damage. And now, again, he gets potentially a little bit lucky here. He has some health to play with, and this is why you save your health early game. He does get Citadel. He actually does get double Citadel there, but he's lucky that he wasn't deleted. A broadside Montana, is a very easy target. But RNG blessed him, and now Cranky is sitting at 320,000 damage with 4,500 health left. Now, the next part of the game comes down to the absolute wire. There's 55 seconds left, and Cranky is facing an agile Colbert, a very dangerous threat to any player, really, but especially battleships, just because of that 32 millimeter plating, which, as we know, only the Yamato can overmatch. Now the game is coming down to the wire. Cranky, as we mentioned, only has 4,500 health. He actually gets caught on fire here. Now he wants to turn out. He does also mention, I think he mentioned to me in a comment or something, that he wanted to get into the base. He thought he needed to tick the points, which I don't think he did, but sometimes the points tick back and forth. So he wanted to make sure he was getting the win. And you'll see he puts out the fire and gets shot one more time with 10 seconds to go here. So he's going to turn out. The lead time on the Colbert is almost 10 seconds. So he gets insanely lucky, but also a very skilled, very talented win there, getting the Dreadnought with 28 health remaining. Honestly, a phenomenal win. But it took 325,000 damage, which I believe is the current Montana record, 3,600 base XP, which it should have been more. Battleships are, I think, are cheated on XP, and it is capture the base instead of domination, so no defend ribbons. But here is his run out. He actually switched to turret traverse after this. I'm not sure why, but he was also running the epic mod. So that is his build. If you notice, he was also running Billy Sims as well, and that is the damage record. So make sure you guys check out Cranky's channel, a phenomenal replay. If he comments, I will try and pin that so you guys can see it. I will also link his channel in the description down below. But let me know what you guys think. If that Colbert had used his health and not kited the entire game, does he get the win? We don't know. But a fantastic game by Cranky and the damage record currently for the Montana. So thanks to Cranky for letting me have this replay. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. AA Ron out. Peace.